Welcome to the Hoot podcast, where we feature conversations with customers, partners, and industry influencers in IT infrastructure and operations to discuss DevOps, SecOps, observability, logging, and everything in between. I'm John Smith, Technical Marketing Engineer here at Humio, a CrowdStrike Company. Joining us today is Ken Greene. Ken works for us here at Humio as our Director of Strategic Alliances. Ken also has extensive experience with professional services as well as business development. Also joining us today from Corelight, we have Todd Wingler. Todd is the Senior Director of Global Alliances at Corelight, and in addition to a successful career building alliances, he also has experience with sales and business development. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hi, John.
Hey, John, thanks for having me.
Yeah, great, thanks. So I want to start with Todd. Todd, welcome to the Hoot. We're very excited that you're here. We're happy to have you. To get started, we'd like to give the audience a little bit, a chance to learn a little bit more about you. So can you give us a little bit of your background and how you got started at Corelight and kind of how your career progressed kind of leading up to the Corelight journey?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. So I'm the Director of Alliances for Corelight, and I joined the company about 9 months ago. Previously, I worked for Deloitte in their advisory cyber risk practice. And in my role there, that's where I was first exposed to the power of open source Zeek and Zeek logs. We developed some cyber reconnaissance and attack service solutions that we would deliver to our customers. And one of the underlying key data sources that we used was Zeek. So I had the ability to take that to market across quite a few large industry verticals. And it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot.
Great. Awesome. And Ken, we know that you work for us here. You're our Director of Strategic Alliances, but can we just give the audience a little bit of a background on your career path and what led you to come here to work with us at Humio?
Yeah, sure. So actually my first job was with BT, British Telecom here in the UK, and very much in the network space. So this was in a very different time. This was the days of X25 and frame relay, showing my age there, way before MPLS and internet VPNs. But that was a great grounding, and certainly for security, anyone new getting into the industry, I'd always point them towards, if you can understand the fundamentals of networking, it's a great starting point, because if nothing's connected to a network, it's generally fairly secure, right? So more recently, prior to Humio, I was working for a cyber consultancy and managed services provider in the UK, and I was leading a team of consultants who were designing and building security operations centers tooling for customers, predominantly using Splunk, CrowdStrike, and ServiceNow technologies. I was well aware of Humio being on the scene and gaining some real traction and causing us some challenges there. So I had a further look, couldn't believe how awesome it was, and thought I want to go and work for them. So I literally pinged Guy to the CEO and said, have you got a job for me? And luckily she did. So here I am and having an awesome time here.
Awesome. That's great. That's a great story. So I have to tell a little bit of a Corelight story. So I won't mention the company, but I used to work for a Corelight competitor. But that said, two of my professional heroes are Dr. Vern Paxson and Seth Hall. Right? When you talk about industry pioneers in the network detection and response space, it is Dr. Paxson, it is the origin of Bro. And years ago, I was at a booth and I have kind of a rule. If you have a comfortable shirt, I'll wear it, right? Even if it's a competitor's shirt. And the Corelight sales rep was my neighbor, and he caught me at the grocery store wearing one of your shirts. And so I was trying to drastically cover up my shirt to make sure that he didn't get a picture and I wouldn't have to explain to my marketing team why there's a LinkedIn post of one of their employees with a Corelight shirt. So I have to tell you, kudos to your marketing team for making a comfortable shirt, because it might you might catch one of your competitors wearing it at the grocery store, I guess. But it was kind of a funny story. But certainly, when we think of pioneers in the NDR space, you absolutely have to think of Corelight. So I want to start with a couple of questions for Todd. Todd, can you give the audience some background on what Corelight has been working on recently? Are there any new features that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I think there's some pretty exciting things that our teams are developing. So last year we released a unique integration with open source Suricata as an intrusion detection engine. And what our developers did was created a unique way to tie the rich Zeek logs directly with signature-based detection logs as well. So now you get this really nice broad set of not only network evidence, but detections tied to it that gives a researcher or an analyst the ability to pivot through that data really nice. More recently, what our labs research team has been working on is providing the ability to interpret encrypted data. And I think this is probably one of the more valuable capabilities that we add on top of open source Zeek. So this is a Corelight specific capability. And what we're able to do is deliver inferences from encrypted traffic, whether it be SSH sessions to be able to determine whether it's a file transfer or keystrokes, et cetera. And even more recently, delivering a VPN package so that we can provide inferences across VPN encrypted traffic across over 300 different VPN providers protocols. So I think that really increases the value that we're delivering to our customers and providing additional inferences to their network traffic without necessarily the overhead or burden of decrypting traffic.
I've got one more question here for Todd and Ken, if you want to add in at the end any of your insights here as well. But what do you see as the major pain points around optimizing threat detection?
So I guess I would address this by referring to some comments that Steve McMahon made on the session 2 of the Humio log management course session. And a couple of things that he pointed out were common pain points in the industry. One is the first one that he called out was the need for easily onboarding data into a platform. The second was being able to deliver instant results of that data. And the third was the need for high fidelity or high quality data into your analytics platform. The reason I think those three pain points that he called out are so important to what Corelight and Humio do together is that when you really think about it, in order to be able to deliver on threat detection, you need to solve those three problems. So at Corelight, right out of the box, our Corelight engine delivers visibility across 45 or more protocols of network traffic. And you can onboard Corelight instantly into Humio as one data source and see all of those sources of protocols and traffic. So you don't have to go through this lengthy onboarding process to touch every DNS server, every DHCP server, every router, every firewall, and normalize all of those logs, make sure they're at the right logging level. You know, those processes can take months and months and months, and they're really, really challenging. So I think we have a unique way to help accelerate our customers' time to value in addressing those problems, ultimately to really get to the point of being able to do quick threat detection, because that's ultimately what we need to do from a cyber operations perspective.
Yeah. So it sounds like the only prerequisite you have to take advantage of Corelight is an IP address, right? If you've got a network IP address, you're kind of in business. That's interesting because, you know, I've worked areas where just the change management alone, it can be 8 months just to get an agent deployed. So that's pretty great. All right. Ken, anything to add there?
Yeah, well, Todd's dead right in terms of the longest bit of any project is onboarding the logs. That's before you even work out, you know, if the right fields are there and all that good stuff. And certainly when I first started playing with the Corelight data, I was expecting to see, to and from IP addresses and some port numbers and stuff. And then I started unpacking it and looking at, oh, hold on, I'm seeing file hashes, I'm seeing certificate errors, I'm seeing DNS. And my brain's going, okay, that means we don't need to onboard logs from DNS, DHCP, et cetera, et cetera. So it covers probably in one kind of swift move the broadest set of log source input data that you need to get the greatest number of MITRE ATT&CK coverage across that framework in a single log source. And the way in which the logs actually come to Humio is really nice as well, in terms of Corelight is a pretty modern platform, and like a lot of technologies now, it can push to a standard HTTP event collector interface in Humio, which is awesome. We don't need middleware and log collectors and shippers and that kind of thing. So it's what we call a native integration, straight from Corelight's interface, export to Humio, put Humio server, your ingest token, which is your key, of course. And yeah, that's as complex as it is, really. Even I can do it.
So there's a lot of logs that Humio ingests, right? Our battle cry here is log everything. So can you just give us, I know we've talked a little bit about it, but why are network logs so important to security? If we could start with Todd and then we'll go over to Ken.
Sure. I think, based on my history of working with customers in SIM projects, either migrations or operational efficiencies of SIM platforms, network traffic always is one of the critical data source components to make sure that you have full visibility across your environment. I think, traditionally, we would lean towards data sources like NetFlow, or from a cloud perspective, maybe some CloudTrail logs or something like that. The challenge is that those log sources were never generated with the mindset of what's needed for cybersecurity. They were generated from either a NetOps perspective or maybe a DevOps perspective. And so I think the value of what Zeek logs bring you is that really rich data set and metadata that you need when you're doing cybersecurity to give you the full evidence and the picture of what's happening on the network.
Yeah.
Ken, anything?
Yeah, sure. I think obviously at CrowdStrike, endpoint logs are very, very close and dear to our heart, and you get to see a lot there. The network logs are very nice partnership, or they give you a different angle. It's a very nice complement to the endpoint logs. So you've got two different viewpoints really. One more sort of closer to the perimeter, one more at the endpoint. So you get to see slightly different things at different times, which is a great thing to be able to bring those two data sets together. And I think that makes the network logs, one of the most valuable ones you can bring in. The other piece is that, kind of, as I said earlier, if things aren't connected to the network, they're generally pretty secure. So having the view at the network is covering everything with an IP address, with a network card. So you're going to see things which maybe there isn't an endpoint agent available for them. Maybe you don't own those devices. Maybe they're IoT devices. Maybe it's a really old embedded operating system running in an industrial control system somewhere. If you're looking at the network, you're seeing all that. So you're able to take interesting observations from the endpoint, maybe, where we get to see a lot of rich detail because we've got an agent there, and then look for those things across other devices that aren't on endpoint protected, maybe. So yeah, I think it's very complementary data set to the endpoint. It gives you two greatest rewards in terms of ingestion.
Yeah. Don't forget to, don't underestimate the enterprise curmudgeon that says you'll never install that agent on my system too, right? So definitely good points. Thanks, gentlemen. So I want to get into the integration in the partner solution. We have a number of packages for Corelight. Can you tell us a little bit about I see 3 Corelight packages in there. Can you tell us, starting with Todd here, can you tell us a little about those packages and how do we get them set up? And then I'd like for Ken then to handle the Humio side. So Todd first.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So Yeah, right. You'll notice when you access Humio that right within the marketplace there are two Corelight apps, and I think there's an interesting history to the relationship with Humio and Corelight. We were probably as a company an early adopter of Humio as well, for multiple reasons. But one of the results of that was that we developed the Corelight app in Humio, and so it's super easy to go into the marketplace and download the threat hunting guide. And when you connect your Corelight sensor, export right into Humio, it just populates. I mean, I set it up and it just works out of the box. And so I use it at home and on my home network to just see what's happening, sort of, as a high interest level of my network. I have quite a few IoT devices, video cameras, Ring cameras, things like that. And it's pretty interesting to see that traffic flow just on my home network. And being able to visualize all of that. I think an important point to make is that Corelight does not have an out-of-the-box visualization platform. So we create this great data, but you really need to connect it into a platform like Humio to be able to visualize it. And so that's really the point of the Humio app that Corelight developed within Humio, is to be able to visualize all of that data. And I think the premise is that app gives you the platform to do threat hunting, right? And so with working with Ken, I know Ken did a lot of work on developing the threat hunting guide with Corelight as well. So I think that really gives us, from an end user experience perspective, it gives you sort of an out of the box way to go through easy steps to set up threat hunting, leveraging the value of Corelight inside of Humio.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, Todd and John. Yeah, I think what we're really trying to do with the threat hunting guide package or app in the marketplace is kind of demystify it and make it something that pretty much everybody could do. And it's very much aimed at that, where the Corelight threat hunting guide is awesome. It talks you through 50 or 60 different things you can look for, what they are, why if you find them they're bad, what kind of things they might be part of, etc. Aligned to MITRE-ATT&CK techniques. What we wanted to do then was make it really easy to be reading that guide and saying, okay, I now want to look for, I don't know, forced NTLM authentication in my network logs. We wanted to give a way in Humio to search for forced authentication, find the pre-written rule and click run. Run it over all time, set it to run as a live rule so you get detections, and you can start seeing detections trigger. So it takes away that need to do any detection engineering to kind of think, okay, I know what I'm going to look for now. Let me work out how. We just turn that into a click. And that's really helping get it into the hands of people that perhaps aren't experts at this stuff and haven't necessarily done it before. And just to add, the other package in the marketplace is the overview package, which really gives you a set of high-level dashboards, which are the classic kind of on the big TV in the SOC or the NOC kind of stuff, where it's really good to get an initial overview of how are things looking today, what's unusual, is there anything spiking, have you got any errors there? And then obviously you can drill down into the details and search for really what's going on there and get to the bottom of it. So yeah, they're the kind of two packages we've got in the marketplace, and they are some of our most commonly used packages, I'm very happy to say.
Great. So my next question, although I think we kind of answered, was why does the partnership make sense? I think both of you definitely covered that as well. So the technical enablement capabilities of these packages is really great, especially if you are new to Corelight and Humio as well. With that, I want to walk into, so how does this benefit our mutual customers? Kind of what challenges are solved through that? Again, let's start with Todd, and then we'll go over to Ken.
Yeah, I think, really fundamentally, it's just that ability to visualize, that rich NDR Corelight data, right? That's really the key value of, what we're doing together in the partnership. And I think, one of the reasons we love Humio is the easy way it just enables our customers to do that.
Yeah, I think one reason why it's especially good and tight partnership is Corelight generates so much data, as you said previously. It's not just IP, acknowledgements and transport stuff. There's a lot of different log types in there, and on a sizable network, that can be a significant amount of data. Now, Corelight do have lots of really sophisticated options to be able to filter and choose what to send. As you said earlier, John, our motto is, log everything. So that's what we prefer customers to do, because you're never going to know what you're going to want to look for based on the latest attack and how that manifests in your network log. So having everything there is really helpful. And also being able to store that for a long period of time. You're familiar with our very cost-effective retention we get with our compression and small amount of infrastructure we take to run. That translates to cost-effective long-term retention, which means when you're doing those investigations, the network is one of those places where you can scroll back, follow that breadcrumb trail of logs, if you like, over months in some cases, to get back to the initial attack vector, whatever it was, the initial probing of the network, the initial file download, whatever it may be. So it's really nice to be able to have that ability to have all the details over such a long period of time and be able to search and pivot across that really quickly. It means you get to the bottom of investigations quickly. You can then be sure you found everything. And like I said earlier, that's irrespective of endpoint protection and other things, because of that universal nature of the network plane, really.
Great. So I want to stay with Ken here on this, but can you talk a little bit about how this can be cross-correlated, right? I'm sure you're intimately familiar with the many different types of data. So what are some of the correlation opportunities that we have there?
Yeah. So one of the ones I kind of touched on it briefly earlier, but it's a very, very kind of simple one. There's so many of these I could bang on for hours, but I'll try and just give you one or two. So one is definitely, you're seeing something at the endpoint and you want to work out how it got there. So Falcon may have stopped the malware running. It's told you everything it knows about it, but you still want to know how that came to be, a kind of a near miss, I guess, and look at, what other controls may be improved and tightened here. So being able to pivot from finding something in Falcon, let's say a hash value, and then looking at the network to say, well, where else has this been seen on the network? Is it only this device that it got to that Falcon stopped it on? What about my non-Falcon devices, my IoT devices? Have they been exposed to this same file hash? What's the URL that was downloaded from, maybe? Pivoting into lots of different things. And the ability to correlate and pivot really reduces false positives a lot. So you might see some, let's call it funky stuff in the network. You're not quite sure what it is. That, you can't go ringing the fire bell every time you see that. Otherwise, your SOC responders will really not thank you. No matter how good your source solution is, that's not going to be a good plan, right? So you may want to go and look at, well, some suspicious activity, the endpoint in question. What's Falcon say about the health of that endpoint? What users logged into that? Well, this user, how long have they been around for? When was that account created? So let's look at authentication data. And actually that user was only created a short time ago, and the account that created it was deleted shortly afterwards. Okay, now we're getting more suspicious. Or you might find, okay, some unusual data is coming from, the endpoint is telling us, a known approved process. It's part of system management update. It's part of an approved software change. ServiceNow records are telling you that's an approved change during this 2-hour period. Completely different kind of kettle of fish, as we say. I'm not sure if that translates globally, but a completely different situation, shall we say.
Yeah. Todd, anything to add here?
Yeah, I think, when you think about the value of those outcomes that Ken was just describing, sometimes the value is not just in finding that blinking red light, but sometimes there's value in confirming that nothing happened, right? And so from a threat hunter's perspective or an analyst perspective, that may not be that exciting, but that can actually have big value from an executive standpoint, right? If you need to have irrefutable proof that hey, we weren't breached here, or the blast radius of this thing was only so big, right? That can also have some high value at an executive level to confirm that our customer data is fine, or whatever the case may be. So a lot of different aspects of being able to look at that data and provide outcomes to whether it's cyber users, IT users, or business level users.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've delivered big data, right? But we haven't, we still need big context, right? And it's these mashups that make that possible. Great. So we want to pivot now into some Humio package creation. So currently Humio offers a free 16 gigabit per day with 7-day retention. And we know that NDR solutions produce a lot of logs, but how does this benefit Corelight users that want to test it out?
So I think one of the really great ways that our users are able to experience this with both Corelight data and Humio is with a program that we came up with called Corelight at Home. So we took the Corelight image and made it fit on a Raspberry Pi that you can install in your home network. And one of the really easy ways to export that data is right into the Humio cloud platform. So the Humio Community Edition release has just been a great thing for our customers, because it gives them an easy way to visualize that Corelight data in a simple to use platform.
And Ken, for the Humio side of that.
Yeah, well, the two are great complements. Yeah, so our Community Edition, as you know, is going extremely well. Lots of successful signups and happy users, and we've got some sample data in there, of course, for users to get a feel for interacting with it. But if they're serious about network data and maybe they're not quite ready to go getting in touch with Corelight to get a proof of concept in the enterprise network, the Corelight at Home program is a great way to get exactly the same format of logs from the same basic software capability and image into Humio and start playing with it. And of course, they can install the package, dashboards light up, they can threat hunt in their home network. Let's hope they're not seeing any forced NTLM authentication in the home network, but you never know what your fridge is up to at night. And the two go really well. So it just gives users a fuller experience of, okay, you can see Humio, interact with some data, but you can interact with some really interesting network data. And I think networks, one of the, like we've talked about already, it's one of the better understood kind of data sets. Pretty much everybody in cybersecurity understands IP addresses and ports and stuff. So it's a great starting point for seeing how they could really translate what they're seeing in this kind of small scale, free kind of play area up to a kind of what it could do in their enterprise.
Yeah, and that's a really good point that you made. Like we've had multiple versions of Windows, multiple Linux distros. The network has remained, TCP/IP has remained, shockingly consistent and a great data source. So just for those that are watching, that are looking to learn as well, right? The only thing you have you have to lose is you might be more marketable as a professional. So I do want to drive home both while the Community Edition of Humio will get you experience with a first-class, really robust, very extensible SIM, but you will also have the opportunity to gain skills with Corelight, which is the industry's first NDR solution. So, those are great opportunities for folks that are looking to get into the industry. So while a common use for Corelight is SecOps, right? There's a lot of data, there's a lot going on the network. What are some of the other latent advantages of leveraging network data? Todd first.
Yeah, I think, commonly we think of using it, as you mentioned, for SecOps. But I do think there's ways to really look at the data off of the network in a curious way and think about NetOps functionality and what you might be able to derive from an operations viewpoint. Maybe just simply getting an inventory of all of the devices on your network as an example, right? When you have a tool like Corelight, you get to see all of those IP addresses and all of the associated MAC addresses and all of that, and you can create that inventory pretty easily. So that's just maybe one example from a NetOps perspective, and then from a DevOps perspective, that one, I think about things like Kubernetes and containerization, cloud, in that regard. And, network traffic in those environments is still network traffic. It's still, there's important value there to monitor, even, within containers, and within cloud. So I think you can, derive performance metrics and things like that can be useful from a DevOps viewpoint as well.
Yeah, we've definitely seen customers using Humio and Corelight plus other network sources to basically try and do a comparison to what their CMDB says. So they're looking for things which are not there. So you can ingest your CMDB, not full CMDB maybe, but key elements of it, key fields from it into Humio, and then just do a comparison against, is this host name not in this list, and therefore what is it? And then perhaps create an alert into your CMDB or ticketing system for that asset owner to try and kind of work out what is this asset and should it really be there, etc. So yeah, there's tons of operational as well as security kind of use cases there, and it's really about for whether it's DevOps, IT ops, or SecOps, knowing what you've got and knowing what state it's in. If you're in SANS top 20 or CIS internet controls now, it's right up there in the top couple, isn't it? Unless you know what your environment is, you're not going to be able to keep it up. You're not going to be able to keep it performing fast and well, and you're not going to be able to keep it secure.
Yeah, it's number one, and number two, what are your assets and what's running on them? So if you HTTP or if you SQL, right, you kind of get an idea of what's running on it. And again, we're back to the only prerequisite is an IP address. So the next question is primarily for Ken, but Todd, if you have any thoughts here, but if I'm interested in creating a package for Humio, one, what are the benefits and any advice that you have for someone that wants to create a Humio package?
Yeah, cool. So the benefits are many. I mean, the benefits are obviously, we're community minded, and if you've got some cool stuff you've created in Humio that you think can help others, then we'd love to help you get it into our marketplace and make that available to other users, which is awesome. It's very, very simple to do. You kind of create the basics of the package just within the Humio interface. Just go settings, marketplace, create a package, choose whatever it is, your parsers, your dashboards, your queries. You can download that as a zip file, and then you can do some work on some of the metadata and the package README. It's very intuitive, and also we're here to help. So get in touch. You can email us at packages@humio.com. Tell us your idea. We'll give you some sort of feedback, some pointers, and then we can get it into the marketplace. And the marketplace content is there for everybody. Everything there is provided under a Apache 2.0 license, so it's very much take parts you want, reuse them, use them in different packages. And we'll also want to test it. We want some sample logs to check it actually works. And we're happy we can document it and put it in there. But yeah, it's very simple. I encourage everybody to do so. And if you do, I might even send you a lovely bit of swag.
Excellent. All right. Very good. Okay. So before we close out here, just for Todd and then Ken afterwards. So what are some of the trends that you're seeing on the wire within the logs that threat hunters should probably be aware of? And are there any thoughts around the potential? So we are releasing Humio for Falcon, where we'll also have the EDR data. So I know we've talked about it a little bit, but just any additional thoughts on the potential context enrichment that can come from that. So we'll start with Todd and then go over to Ken.
Yeah, I just think, in today's network, there's so much traffic that's encrypted. So I think, the work that our labs team is doing to really derive more and more insights out of encrypted traffic is really going to help provide more and more fidelity, especially when you start combining that then with endpoint data. So in like Falcon XDR, and combining that with Falcon X endpoint data, I think that's going to continue to provide opportunities to grow and expand in what we provide as far as network visibility and detections in the encrypted world.
Yeah, that encryption stuff sounds really, really interesting, because obviously encryption is great, but it can be, difficult. I remember trying to talk to customers about doing DLP on encrypted channels and that stuff, and it's kind of has side effects which make monitoring and visibility difficult, which is the whole point of encryption in some ways, but obviously depends on who you are. So that's going to be phenomenally interesting to see, and I can see a lot of customers being interested in that. They don't want to do hardware accelerated decryption at the edge and all these kind of things. It's just not practical, and it just delays things with the speed that people expect these days. It's not practical, really. So that's really exciting. And I think we're going to see more and more need for the endpoint and the network data coming together to bring real context into what's happening. We're seeing more and more attacks which are not malware based. They're living off the land. They're using regular kind of management tools and things. So it's getting harder and harder to work out what looks like good versus bad. And I think being able to have that context, the two different viewpoints, the endpoint and the network together, being able to compare what you're seeing over a long period of time with the context of the user and the device, it allows you to spot what's less usual and kind of sticks out, and is more of a detection. And I think that's going to be very, very valuable for customers.
Great. So we're at time today. Thank you both for your time. Before we leave, I'd like to just remind our listeners of how they can get involved in both Humio and Corelight. So again, first, Todd, if you want to just remind folks how they can get involved with the Corelight home program, and then Ken, we'll go over to you.
Yeah, so we'll provide the link to sign up for Corelight at Home in the recording here. So feel free to click on that. There's an application form to fill out, and you can either order a Corelight at Home Raspberry Pi, or you can just download the images if you have your own Raspberry Pi and get started pretty quickly. So be sure to check out the link and sign up.
Cool. And from my perspective, John, we've got obviously Humio Community Edition, humio.com, and it'll take you straight there. And also the Nest, where we've got community-based content from log management enthusiasts and industry experts around the broader subject of log management. And that's a great resource that some of our customers less familiar and less expert in log management are really finding useful.
Great. All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you both for your time today. This was a great conversation. It's great to have two thought leaders such as yourselves on the Hoot podcast. And I want both of you to have a great weekend. Have a good day.
Cool. Thanks, John.
Likewise. Thanks very much. Cheers.
See you again.
All right. So with that, don't forget to sign up for our free Humio Community Edition. It has a free 16 gigabit per day license and a 7-day retention period. It's a very effective way to test drive the Humio platform. There's also a 30-day enterprise trial if you want to try that. Also, please sign up for our ongoing spring advanced log management course. Those who attend live sessions will receive a certificate and a badge. We have upcoming sessions every Thursday. And currently, if you miss sessions 1 or 2, you can see the recordings for those on the humio.com website. Also, if you like the conversation with Ken and Todd today, please sign up for the advanced course that they're going to teach, the advanced log management course on March 17th. That is our final session, session 6, where both Ken and Todd will discuss in more detail threat hunting roles and the skills that you need to have, tips on how to find more actionable insights, and also how to be more proactive while leveraging the Humio platform. Thanks so much for watching today. Have a great day.